before. What's it like to be in interviews? You've been in interviews for like, as far as I can tell, for like 8 hours,
question,
9
man.
hours
It's a
today.
great
So
question.
what's that like?
I've never been asked that before by an interview. It's brilliant. Early on in your career, it's murder. You know, it's just crazy because you try and stupidly change it every time. You know, because you're frightened of boring yourself almost. You know, and I've said that. Eventually, you realise that actually the trick is to say the same thing all the time. You know, so that's a whole other problem then, because it is the boredom side of it, you know, and it does get a bit much. The biggest problem sometimes is stopping and pausing, thinking, I'm sorry, have I just said that to you? That
You've been asked the same questions over and
God,
over.
you know, you're exactly. I mean, especially because some of them. I mean, some of the questions you guys have to be the same question every time. They're obvious, you know what I mean? But sometimes that can be quite difficult. And the worst one I ever had to do, I did the press junket for Angela's Ashes. One of the days on Angela's Ashes is a New York hotel. We did 51 television interviews in the day, ranging from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. 51, can you believe it? You know, you sort of lose the will to live by the end of that, you know.
Okay. No, I can't believe it. It's got to be mind-numbing.
It just kills you.
So
I haven't said that.
No, that's great. I mean, we were just sitting there going, you know, what's it got to be like? So, what's what is the coolest thing that you've had to do on SG? What's the thing that you did that you thought, you know, when you did it, you were like, yeah, this is exciting, or this is cool, or whatever?
Well, that's an easy one actually, because we've just been talking about that. Not the same question, but it covers the same thing. We shot an episode in the second series. We've just shot it actually a couple of months ago, called Malice. And the year before, Robert Cooper and I had been sitting on set and been chatting about this and that. And I love westerns. That's my thing. You know, I love western movies. I said, he says, is there anything you've ever done you'd love to do? I said, well, I did a movie called Ravenous years and years ago. It was kind of like a western, you know. I loved that, but I've never been close to
Ravenous,
that since.
Yeah. I've seen it.
I love that movie.
It was
It's a bizarre film. That's the kind of film I like to watch, you know what I mean? But anyway, it's a kind of semi-western that was. And he said, well, we can do that. I was like, what are you talking about?
On TV?
But in this show? And of course, that's when that's, you know, the great realisation for me is that the wonder of science fiction is anything's up for grabs. You know, especially with the Stargate.
Yeah.
That if you want to go through 1 week to a desert planet and shoot a western, we can do that. It's like, really? So anyway, Robert got kind of he's obsessed with this idea of a revenge story, somewhat in the same vein as The Searchers or something like that. You know, the Ford classic. And he thought, what would happen if you consumed Rush with so much rage that he's just out for revenge, and everything that he stands for, everything that he's been fighting for in that moment, he doesn't care about anymore. He only wants that typical western type of feeling there. And so he did that, and he wrote this fantastic episode called Malice that is a revenge story. I do go to a desert planet. We filmed it in the Bisty Badlands in New Mexico. Unbelievable location. It was like a dream come true for me, you know what I mean? And we had Rush carrying these little handgun the whole time. The whole thing looked western. We shot through the arms and stuff like that. And it was just wonderful. It was a great experience, and it not only served the purposes of keeping us happy, but the script itself and the episode itself, in my opinion, that one, Malice, and the one just before, Greater Good, which are kind of companion pieces, are the best of what we've done so
I think
far.
it's great that you get, you know, I don't know if I want to call it creative input, but you know, you get input from yourself into the show, and that must really be gratifying.
It is, man. Aye, it's important that as well, you know.
For that, I want to ask a question. I interviewed, her earlier this morning, and you had played, I believe, you know, a male stripper. You had played. What do you think about what do you think about playing next to a lesbian co-lead? Do you find that presents any specific challenges or anything like that, or you know, do you get any pushback on that or anything? No.
No, I don't consider that at all. I haven't considered their sexuality as relevant at all. If maybe if Rush had more to do with Camille Ray, then maybe that would be something that I would be thinking about in terms of Rush. But they don't really communicate on that level. Like Rush doesn't communicate with anyone at any kind of level, really.
Okay.
He's looking for speaking to himself, basically. So in that respect, no, I don't think it's a problem.
Okay, just
Sure.
curious about that.
Yeah.
What do you think about doing science, heavily science fiction based? I mean, you said that everything's on the table. Is there anything else that specifically is exciting to you about doing science fiction as opposed to some of the more down to earth roles you've done? When you came onto the show, did you get what you expected, or did you?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, nothing's ever going to be 100%, But if you can get up there in the high 80s, you're doing well. I think that's probably where we were with it. I mean, when the guys approached me with the idea, which was about a year maybe before the first season was shot. I mean, I've got a fantastic manager who knows me so well, because I'm kind of different in terms of the way I handle the business and stuff like that. And it takes someone who knows that to cope with me, because I say no to everything. Basically, no, I don't want to do this, don't want to do that, I don't want to talk to this, but I just want to do it. I just want to act. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. So John had said, look, this piece has come in Stargate. I went, nah, don't want to know right away. And he said, no, I knew you were going to say that, but have a look at this character, because he knows that's what it's all about for me, character. A lot of actors talk about the script and the story and all of that. Yes, all good, but if I don't believe that guy I'm playing, you've got no chance of believing it either.
Right.
So that was the most important thing for me. So Rush suddenly was presented to me. And there was one line in the little synopsis that said he's no desire to go home. Wow, who's that? I want to know that about that guy, because that then throws up so many why questions, Why not? Why is he doing that? Why? What happened to him? All this kind of thing. So fantastic space for an actor to inhabit right away. So well, you've got a great character there, so what about the rest of the thing? And then when they explained to me the premise, the notion of this ancient ship floating around in space, and these people being thrown onto this thing, no one's in charge. I loved it. There was a kind of anarchic kind of quality that it seemed to have, and I think that certainly comes through in the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first season. This kind of anarchy that's going on, struggle for power and all that kind of stuff, and then just breaking these people down into the sum of their parts, what makes these people tick, how do they cope in a situation which is outside of their experience, and these things are interesting for an actor, so all of this stuff. And then they sent me a couple of scripts as well. I thought, this is not what I expected at all. So I went back to my manager and said, let's talk, so I spoke to the guys. Then I got onto the telephone with them, had about 3 or 4 different calls over a couple of months, and I was very honest, up front. The first thing I said to them was, I'm really genuinely flattered that you would come and ask me to do this, but why?
I kind of think it might go the other way.
Well, I've always liked that, and you're humble about these things, and it's nice, to have that kind of, attention. But I said, well, fantastic, but why the fuck do you want me to do it? Why do you want me to do this, And they kind of laughed, and they said, your reply is kind of one of the reasons why we're coming to ask you. And I said, I'm beginning to get this psychological kind of strange conversation we're having here. But fundamentally, I guess what they meant was, if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone like me. It wasn't as if they were going to try, let's get Robert Carlyle. Well, okay, we'll go back to
being the first pick is nice.
I'm saying, lovely, or looking for a different type of actor, or a kind of actiony type of actor, or that kind of thing, whatever, they wanted that. So, okay, let's see what you've got. And the scripts that they sent me, as I said, it lived up to these things that they'd been talking about and what I'd read in the synopsis. So I thought, yeah, I'm on board for a while here.
It's a pretty smart show, and and it seems to me like it would be challenging. How physical is your role? Do you feel? Sometimes
it can be. I had a run of Malice, the one I was telling you about, the Western. That was incredibly physical. Because you're out in that location, though extraordinary, is also really difficult. You're talking severe heat and all that kind of stuff, and dust, and not pleasant. And especially when you're out there in these conditions and you're wearing a thermal and a woolen vest and stuff like that.
You gotta wear a bunch of gear.
The physical things are a problem. The episode before that is one called The Greater Good. Myself and Louis Ferreira as the Colonel are up in a spaceship, and we have these suits. Did you see those suits that we're wearing? My God, these things are... I want to burn it, man. I'm going to burn these things before I leave that studio, just to make sure no one else has to go through them.
What do you do? As a question that I actually have some interest in. In order to stay in shape for the role, for the physicality, what kind of exercise?
I practice yoga.
You do yoga?
Yeah, I do. I've done that for years and years. I'm a wee bit out of practice at the moment, in actual fact, but that's what I do. I want to get fit.
No,
it suits my size and my scale. This was invented in a place where most people are this size.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting yourself through your legs and all of that,
it keeps you pretty limber.
Well, it keeps you that, and it keeps you focused. And yoga for me is the only. I mean, I know that years and years ago in the past, when I was a teenager, I would go to the gym and stuff like that and try and pick up weights, and that gives you a bit of a rush. Of course, it does, but. Nothing like yoga does in terms of the brain. It's the only exercise, a form of exercise, that kind of works in tandem with your body and your mind, and everything is balanced, and it's a wonderful thing, and I would recommend it to anyone, and particularly to actors. It's a fantastic place to be.
I think that's a great quote there.
Yeah.
When you're I guess. When you're preparing for a shoot, is there anything that you do specifically to get into character? You're playing a doctor. Do you do any research?
Always.
Have you done some reading on the side? What do you do to make it feel real?
Well, for me, as I said earlier, the character is what it's all about, and then within that character, what I'm looking for is probably the three things I always talk about: is believability, truthfulness, and honesty. This is it. These things are crucial to playing anything at all. So you're then looking for truth, believability. Then you need to go and research that. So you've got a bit of truth yourself. A bit of honesty going in there. And of course, it's you don't have to go and kill somebody to play a murderer. We know that. But having said that, in the past, I played a homeless person. One of the first films that I ever made, and it was the second or third film I made in actual fact. And I'd been homeless, in fact, when I was a young kid, but I'd never experienced that as an adult, and I thought, well, what's to stop me doing this thing? Go and experience it. So I did. So I left the house in London this night, had 27 pence in my pocket, and I slept in the street for 2 weeks in London. And that was...
you mean as in modern times, you decided to just give it a shot? Absolutely.
This was in 1993 or something. I said, 17, 18 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I was... no one really... I was maybe had done a couple of little things that only people in the art house circuit would recognise me. So I wasn't recognisable. People going...
Right.
Like that.
Yeah, it would be a little harder today.
But today it would be... I mean, I think you could certainly disguise yourself enough to get by. I think you can.
You could probably do it, but it would
to be honest with you, I think most actors... I mean, you see this, they bring the attention upon themselves, man. You walk into a room with a crowd, people are going to turn around and look at you, If you go in on your own, with your head down, no one's going to bother.
I think it would take some acting to disguise yourself. I suspect if you walked in, there would be a certain recognition factor. But
I think if you wanted to rid yourself of that, I think you could.
Think so?
No, I think
possible.
I think
possible. Okay.
I think so.
All right. I defer to you. Absolutely.
So hiding in disguising is what it's about, and I did that in this movie called Safe. To try and get some kind of understanding. About what it's like to wake up in the morning and not have a bed around about you, or not have anyone around about you, or it being in the rain or whatever. The horror of that, and it is fucking horror, believe me. So all things I do that for, and with Rush, the Stargate Universe, the more fantastical it is, then it starts to become more a process of your imagination to a certain extent. But I did go and speak to two quantum physicists in Glasgow University just before I started this, and I was a wee bit embarrassed, to be honest, to go to them and talk to them about this stuff. Look at this thing, and what I was asking was, look, just basically in its essence, is there any truth in this? Could this be a thing? Mm-hmm. And they both said the same thing. They both laughed and went, of course. What, really? said, yes, in theory, technically, this is what it's all about. This is what quantum physics is all about, wormholes and time travel and blah, blah, blah. I said, so this flimsy little script I've thrown in front of you here, you wouldn't laugh at that and dismiss that. You went, absolutely not. Perfect. So that gave me that believability thing that I'm talking about. So I had these things.
You felt grounded in that.
I felt that, I can say these words and not feel silly saying these words. I can talk about wormholes and solar flares and stuff like that and time travel and not feel like it's just coming out of a comic. It's actually coming from somewhere.
That's very interesting, because one of the things that because as you get interviewed for 8 hours a day, we interview people for several hours a day, and one of the things that it seems most daunting for people is doing the technical speaking. I'm very impressed that you went and talked to these scientist guys. We have day jobs in the scientific community, math majors, and stuff like that. So, I can see how that could actually give you the grounding and stuff like that. That's impressive. It's impressive to me.
I don't know anything about the world of science, so therefore it was important for me just to talk to people who did, and I look at the strangest things. When something comes up in the script and they talk about, say, I don't know, a yellow dwarf or something like that, and I'll go, let's find out. And I'll go to the internet then and I'll use it for the right reasons and try and find some knowledge out of this thing. I love that. I've really enjoyed that. And there's been quite a few things in the past year and a half that I've learned about that I had no idea about beforehand.
SGU is probably a challenging show in that respect. Outside of the sort of technological, sort of ephemeral science fiction aspects, what do you find challenging about your character, or about working with the cast, or anything like that? Is there anything that you find, on a daily basis, weekly basis when you're shooting, that you find, wow, this is exciting or tough to do, or anything like that?
I think that constantly, all the way through, it's really important. It's been really important for me to. Rush is a fantastic character to play, right? But you could go badly wrong with that part, because a lot of the stuff he does is morally questionable, and whether he's doing it for the right reasons or for wrong, it's the very, very delicate path to walk playing someone that dislikable, because if you go too far, you're going to alienate the whole lot of it.
You can't pass that moral event horizon.
Precisely. But I'm going to use that later on. That's a great quote. That's exactly right. You've got to stay on the right side of that, so that you not that you want to be likeable. I never want to be likeable in any part I've ever played. I've never cared about that. The audience like it, great. That means that it's worked in some way, but I'm not going to attempt to get you to do that.
I understand that.
And I think that Rush is very much that kind of guy. He is a real person, so he's warts and all with him. He'll give you the good and the bad in the same 5 minutes. And I think that's eminently truthful again, and for me a pleasure to play, but also a danger every time I get a script and think, okay, what's he doing now? How am I going to try and balance this somehow? And I can go back to the writers, as we were talking about earlier on, and adjust a little bit here and there. But so much of it, a lot of the time, is in the eyes.
I could see that.
That's what it's all about.
Well, I think we got the nod.
You got the nod.
It's been absolutely great.